I don't understand their religion, so all I know is about terrorism, and it's connected to Muslim and Hamas.
The Greater Toronto Area, home to more Muslims than any other place on the continent.
When you see Muslim women dressed in the full niqab, what goes through your mind?
My mind, it's scary looking because you can't really see them and you don't know really what's underneath.
Islam is the fastest growing religion in all of Canada, a religion that has become a lightning rod for fear, outrage, and anger.
So the violence and then the unknown. Like, how did it get to be so violent?
Terror, beheadings, radicalization, words that now blanket an entire religion based on atrocities far away and much closer to home. This week alone in Canada, terror plots unveiled.
Officials announcing today they have arrested a man they believe was preparing to unleash death and destruction downtown.
Another terror trial goes to the jury.
Both men have pleaded not guilty to a handful of terrorism-related charges.
A Canadian soldier on an anti-ISIS mission returns home in a casket. And this, likely the most controversial piece of cloth in the world, makes headlines as the Prime Minister calls the niqab a product of a culture that is anti-women.
And why would Canadians, contrary to our own values, embrace a practice at that time that is not transparent, that is not open, and frankly is rooted in a culture that is anti-women?
All of this against the backdrop of a contentious new federal anti-terror bill that is supposed to protect all Canadians but has Muslim Canadians fearing about their safety.
Stephen Harper is very specifically mentioning, Muslims as jihadis. His language around, we'll find them in the mosques or in their homes, those types of things really are creating fear.
Over the next 2 hours, those who rarely get heard will speak, the women of the niqab.
We're not hiding anything. I wasn't forced into it. It was a choice that I made myself.
The increasing sentiment of Islamophobia.
Is this a very hard time to be a Muslim in Canada?
I think it's getting harder.
And the Muslim woman who says what she has to say about Islam puts her life in danger.
And I do fear for my life sometimes because I have openly criticized many tenets of Orthodox Islam.
I was in an apartment building and just in broad daylight, this man came to me and said, Muslims are being bad in the world. Let me show you what that means. He tried to attack me physically. He actually tried to assault me in the building and, I was able to get away.
That was at the height of the anti-Muslim hysteria after 9/11. Fareen Khan says the climate right now in Canada is eerily similar.
The fact that Stephen Harper is very specifically mentioning, Muslims as jihadis and actually, problematizing the entire community is very concerning.
Khan is speaking out against Bill C-51, Prime Minister Harper's controversial anti-terror bill, and the increasingly heated language surrounding it.
His language around, we'll find them in the mosques or in their homes, those types of things really are creating fear, I think, or he's trying really hard to create fear, and I think it's definitely something that, as a Muslim, would be of concern because we are creating, sort of the same type of fear that we had post 9/11.
As we're standing right in the heart of downtown Toronto, Yonge and Dundas, and if you're walking amongst the crowds of people, do people look at you differently?
There is a concern. We're feeling the pressure around us, and I think, for myself, I can say that, when I go out, I'm not feeling as safe as I used to, or people are looking at me differently, that kind of thing.
These women are called niqabis, Muslims who cover their faces with what may well be the most controversial piece of cloth on earth.
I really don't feel that we're oppressed in any way. And thankfully, living in Canada, we have the freedom of choice. And this is our choice, to wear the niqab. I chose to wear the niqab because I thought that it would help me come closer to my faith.
Zainab is 21 years old, a married U of T student. Wadad is 27. Both are part of Al Huda Islamic Institute in Mississauga, part private children's school.
We have a few classrooms on the side, a computer lab, and also some of the younger kids study in rooms here.
Part mosque.
Our main mosque here is where the community gathers on a weekly basis.
And mostly education center for hundreds of women.
We're dedicating ourselves to making sure the women in our community are very well educated.
But educated in Islam, not necessarily beyond Islam.
Well, yeah, there's a focus on Islamic education.
How a woman should dress is a hotly debated issue within the Muslim community. Some interpret the Quran as saying women should wear a headscarf called a hijab. But here there is a more conservative reading, the niqab.
I thought that it was something that would really help me, become better Muslim, and I think to a certain extent that the process is an ongoing process, but this is just one aspect of it.
Does it mean that you're a better Muslim woman if you wear the full burqa, the Saudi Arabian style triple layer with just the grate through the eyes?
Again, as Zaina mentioned, that there's a huge spectrum of niqabis, like of ladies who wear niqab, and this is one form of it, and this is how our teachers have interpreted niqab to be.
Why does a man not have to cover his face?
In Islam, women are given that higher status. So as Muslim women, when you're covering and you're not being available to everybody, it's an honor. It's a way to show respect.
Zainab agrees that peer pressure led her to begin her journey as a veiled woman.
When I started wearing it, it was a fab. It was all the cool girls, all the grade 8, 9 girls were doing it at Al-Huda. So I wore it because my friends were wearing it.
But when Wadad and Zainab are with their friends or husbands, the niqab comes off and the trendy clothes slip on.
When we're at home, when we're at parties, just female gatherings, we do get dressed up. We do straighten our hair. We do wear makeup.
We all follow the trends. We do everything, but it's just not for everybody to look at.
We're completely probably the same as you. We go home, we have dinner, we've got work, we've got kids, right? We've got school.
We choose to wear this, and it doesn't define us really as people. It's part of us. It's definitely part of us, but that's not all that we're about.
I'm a Muslim woman. I don't find wearing a niqab or even wearing the hijab or segregation or being confined to the home an expression of equality.
Farzana Hazan is a women's rights activist and outspoken critic of parts of her faith, including women who wear the niqab.
And yet they will say that it's their choice. Many of those women will say it's their choice.
Well, they definitely say that. It's being touted as something that women choose to do, and even Western liberal feminists have jumped on the bandwagon.
She's referring to the social media backlash against the Prime Minister's claim that the niqab is anti-woman.
After sporting this ensemble, Harper has no credibility to tell anyone how to dress.
So how is telling women what to wear freeing them to wear what they want?
Hoping my hoodie today isn't offending most Canadians.
Harper thinks the niqab is anti-women, but he's still the man decreeing what women should wear.
How women should dress is a matter of interpretation of the Quran, all the way from uncovered to the hijab, to the niqab, to the burqa.
If you've constantly been, taught a certain narrative within Islam that if you don't cover up, you're going to hell, or you're not really a good Muslim woman, or you're violating some tenet of Islam, with that hellfire and brimstone theology, there's no genuine choice.
The growing presence of the niqab in the GTA, Hazan says, is a sign of increasing Islamic conservatism here. She says while most Muslims won't go off to join ISIS, many secretly sympathize.
There is a significant segment of Canadian Muslims who feel a lot of anger towards the West, but they won't necessarily take up arms, or they won't necessarily go and join a jihad abroad. But there is that sentiment, that there is somehow a war between the West and Islam.
She says if Muslims want to progress, one act would speak volumes.
The jihad is considered the sixth pillar of Islam, among Orthodox circles. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to get Muslims to renounce it.
Polygamy, honor killing, segregation, Khan speaks out about them all, even though she says it puts her life at risk.
I think that radicalization is taking place here as well, and I do fear for my life sometimes, because I have openly criticized many tenets of Orthodox Islam. Muslims who espouse views like mine fear coming out. There is again that one strain that says that, well, anyone who's a dissident ought to be killed.